just kind of take a look at how we can use our calculator to evaluate trig ratios for given angles. So our instructions say evaluate the following on our calculators. Be sure to be in the correct mode. So that is to say that when we evaluate trig ratios on our calculators are going to ask us, are we talking to our calculator in radians or in degrees? So the very first thing I want to kind of pop over and look at is just this mode button. A lot of calculators have this mode button. Some have different forms of a mode that we're looking for here. But what we're looking for is really radians and degrees. And so in this case, say number 16 here, I want to find the sine of 10 degrees. It would be really important for me to pop over to my mode settings here and switch this over to degrees. Otherwise, when I do my sine of 10 degrees here, I'm not going to get the same thing as what I would get if I were in radians mode. So just to go to show you here, if I go pop this back over to radians, and I quit out of here and I type in the exact same thing, you'll notice that I get two completely different ratios. And of these two, we want to keep the first one just because we were interpreting 10 as being in degrees. So the other thing I want to indicate on our instructions here is that we tend to round all trig ratios as decimals out to about 4 places. So in this case, we'd have about 0.1736. So what I'm looking for is about 0.1, let's check this again here, 1736. So, oops, 736. So this would be if it's in degrees. Likewise, we could also evaluate cosine of negative 110 because we're already in degrees mode. Looking at something like number 18 where we're in radians mode, this pi ninths, we simply would just click over to radians. I'm already in radians, and we would type it in as is. So making sure that we use our pi key and not 3.14. So it's behind our power key. So pi divided by 9, here again, would be our tangent ratio at pi ninths. So we'd have 0.3640. 0.3640 if we rounded that fourth spot. So some of these you'll notice, like number 19 here, is a reciprocal function. The thing that's just going to be important for you to remember is that if we have the cosecant of an angle, we always just type it in or interpret it as 1 over the sine. If we have the secant of an angle, this is 1 over the cosine. And if we have the cotangent of an angle, this is always the 1 over the tangent ratio here. So that being said, something like secant of 304, if you want to do this on your calculator, it just means that you're going to have to type this in as 1 over the cosine of 304 degrees. Since our calculators tend never to give us these reciprocal trig function buttons, this is kind of how we have to do it. And so making sure that I'm in degrees mode here, so mode, we'll hop over to degrees since 304 is in degrees, and we'll just type this in as 1 divided by the cosine of 304. That's going to be the same thing as our reciprocal, or secant of 304. So 1.7883 would be about right here, so about 1.7883. So making sure you're in the proper mode, round out to 4 decimal places, and making sure that if you have any reciprocal functions that you type it in as 1 over its reciprocal function. Cheers.